Good morning.
Morning.
How we doing?
Oh, just peachy.
Peachy?
Peachy.
Tell me about your peachiness.
Awesome. It's awesome. I love being out in the snow. My back hurts from shoveling. There's quite a loud high-pitched ringing out in the hallway, and that's fun.
Okay.
It's a Monday. Someone's
All right.
got a case of the Mondays.
Awesome Monday.
Yeah.
All the freaking idiots were off the road today, so it was great. It was great getting in here. You have the strong survivor adaptability people out here in the parking lot.
Yeah.
I mean, this is my people.
Do you have a snowblower?
Yeah.
Did you use it yesterday?
I did.
Well, guess what?
What?
I didn't. I did it by hand twice.
Okay, good. And also followed up by complaints about your back. So it doesn't feel
Listen,
yeah.
that doesn't matter. I still did it.
Here's the planning and preparation, right?
Yeah.
The first set of needs, like anytime you get a little nugget of gold, right?
Yeah.
You plan for survival first. Luxury comes after survival. So all of those weak, unadapted people who don't have, a case of ramen noodles at their disposal and some way to get around the snow when you live in Ohio and not a snowblower when you get a blizzard, like that's on you. The rest of us planners invested appropriately.
My husband said, he's like, next year I'm going to buy a snowblower and it'll never snow again.
Yeah. Well, there are years. There are
insurance.
years that went by.
Yeah.
Where I didn't even need the snowblower. You just use a shovel because it was enough.
I felt like a badass. I felt like everybody I saw that was getting their driveway plowed by a truck or a snowblower, I was like, I'm better than you. I'm better than you. I'm better than you. I was like one of those like arrogant people that do like CrossFit or something.
That's the way you should be.
That's like, look at me. I'm a girl and I'm doing this.
Yeah.
Twice.
Yeah. So if you don't have a snowblower, but you have a Gucci purse, like you invested poorly. Sorry.
I don't have a Gucci purse.
What do you have?
My husband got me a Coach purse several
Coach
years
purse, okay.
ago.
And is it around the same cost as a snowblower?
I don't know. I didn't buy it.
I want to see.
I didn't even buy it.
I want to see the Coach purse scooping that snow.
How much is a snowblower?
I don't know. $400.
Oh, it wasn't that much. I'll tell you that right now.
I'm still going to say collectively the luxury items and not a snowblower.
Want my props.
Yes.
I want you to say, Kellen, you are a badass and you are fit and it's a good thing you lift weights and it came in handy and good for you. I want to hear that.
No, anybody who's pursuing health and said, here's an opportunity for a natural occurrence to go get good health. That was your workout. That was your exercise.
It was.
So people who go to the gym and then try to get the closest parking spot ever, you lose, asshole. That's the way I feel.
I did feel bad. I saw a car totally stuck on my way here on a side road. This car's wheels were just doing this. And I'm like, oh.
Yeah, I took the Jeep out yesterday and I was driving around just to see if I can rescue anybody. I had my towing bands ready to see if somebody got stuck in a snowbank. And I was going down 224 and I saw this little old lady in a front wheel drive, little Geo Metro, really tiny car. And it was going about 6 inches per hour. And she was struggling to go anywhere.
Aww.
Yeah, it was so sad. She never stopped, so there was nothing to help her with. She just had to suffer the consequences of the car that she decided to buy because she didn't want to be prepared.
How do you feel about the people this morning not going to work and saying, I didn't know we were going to get snow? Do you want to punch them in the face?
No, listen.
I do.
Listen.
I do.
Listen. The next era of civilization's decline. Okay, think of pioneer days, right? People were hitting the Oregon Trail. There was adversity on the Oregon Trail. There were savages. There were rivers to cross. There was terrible weather, lack of food, and whatever. And you had the strong people who made that trek and lived in populated Oregon, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you had everybody else. The problem is in society, we have no way of filtering out the people who really shouldn't be alive. Like it could be eugenics talk, whatever. We have a lot of these really soft, really unable people, and we've put them into society. And so when it comes to a little obstacle and they start effing crying, right? We did that. We made the choice to put soft people in positions.
Well, we allowed them to be soft.
Yeah,
we cater to the softness.
We allowed them to stay alive. We allowed them to be in the positions of power So you have a soft nation that they're like 5 snowflakes. I'm staying in bed. And the pioneers are like, dude, I had freaking malaria for 5 days, shit my guts out, and I still trekked on.
You are one of those people that are like, I walked to school uphill both ways, barefoot.
No, we got to dumb it down because that is even not a connective story. Just like I didn't make an excuse at the first obstacle and I walked to school one time in May, right? Is enough for kids to be like, I would never do that. That's hard.
How do you feel about this? You know, I'm annoyed this morning, so I'm going to bitch about every little thing that annoys me. You're a business owner.
Yeah.
Let's say you came out in 3 feet of snow and icy roads and you're like, my business is going to be open today. We are open for business.
Yeah.
But a bunch of other community members who are not your customers and not your employees used your parking lot over the weekend and are now snowed in. And they took all your parking. What do you do?
I'm a militant when it comes to this shit. I used to have a storefront in, I believe it was McKinley Heights, and we had 3 parking spaces. Right. We shared parking with 4 other businesses. And my 3 spots were not numerous, but they were sacred. Right. Anytime somebody tried to park in my spot, I was super quick to tell them that they were not welcome there. And, you know, I had a customer in Columbiana who had a retail establishment, and semi drivers decided that they were going to use part of their parking lot as where they would long-term park their semis.
Yeah.
And he was like, I was looking to buy some of the property and, you know, partner with him on the business. And he was like, I don't know what to do about these guys. Right. And I'm like, do they pay you rent? No. Why are they there then? Okay. Cause they've always been there. And I'm like, I'll take care of this in 35 seconds. Right. They make tow trucks, they haul semis. I will call it in as a trespasser that's on my property, and these people will be gone in 27 seconds. It'll cost me maybe $1,200, maybe $1,500, but every semi will no longer be. It will be freaking impounded. And when you show up, I'm going to go out there with a little form, and it's going to say, "Hey, you could park here for $500 a day," and let them say that's too expensive, and they will find another place. I am militant when people take common areas, right? People aren't defending against those common areas. So you have those opportunists who'll come in and take advantage. So let's just say you're a college student, right? Or a renter, right? You don't pay any utilities. So you don't care what things cost. You don't care about the upkeep. You don't care about the expense. So a college kid goes to his dorm room and says, hey, I can just plug in my laptop. And, you know, the renter is like, I don't care if you plug in a laptop. That's barely going to cost me anything in electricity. But so I'm like, I'm going to decide to set a 1,500 watt Bitcoin miner up in my room, and I'm going to hit all the plugs and cost my landlord $1,000 a month in electricity, right? There's a point where if you don't pay for it, then you take it for granted and you opportunity your way into inconveniencing the people who actually pay for it. And that is the theme of my life, is trying to find people who take advantage of others, right? And making them pay a consequence.
Well, can we go bust kneecaps today?
You can have everyone. You can call the landlord, and you can tell them that you have squatters in your parking lot.
Yeah,
and have him tow all of the vehicles that should not be there.
And this is a regular occurrence. It's just today they're snowed in, but they're always coming by during our work hours.
Yeah, make us think about it.
And what's even better is one time the person next door walked over and yelled at an old man, one of our customers, for having to park in his lot for 5 minutes. For 5 minutes, this man walked over and screamed at one of ours.
Yeah.
And they take up all of our parking on a regular basis.
Let's get militant. Let's get them.
Yes.
Make a shit about it. Make a big stink about it.
How? I don't know where they are. They're just...
No, it doesn't matter who they are. If you call in an impound on someone who is in your lot, like the owner of the lot is actually the landlord, so the landlord's going to have to actually do it because you don't do it. But you can. I am highly impressed with you. Yeah, we are survivors here. If you want to hitch your wagon to a dependable horse, we are it.
Thank you, Brian. I should admit, I didn't want to be here this morning. Okay. So I wouldn't give me that many props.
Not surprised.
But I did get here. I did not want to, but I did make it.
Tell
But
me about
thanks,
this.
Brian.
Didn't want to. What about?
I did not
So
want
it's
to.
Monday. It's a work day.
Yeah.
Okay. So what? Give me the didn't want to part of it.
I don't want to be on bad roads and crash and die.
Okay. So it's a fear,
Yes.
right? Are you fearful all around? Like you will really limit your exposure to risk, your tolerance?
Oh, I'm a pretty fearful person in general.
Okay.
Yes. I'm afraid of
so you
everything.
withhold and you stay home a lot because
Oh,
anytime something.
yes.
Okay. As long as you're
Yeah.
consistent.
No. This wasn't like, I don't want to go to work, but I'll go out and go shopping and party.
Yes,
No,
I'm
no,
gonna
no,
sled
I was
riding.
like-
Temperature's so bad, and I'm going to go sled riding. Or money's tight, but I'm going to buy a Coach
No, I would have been
purse.
like bubble wrap and
Yeah.
don't leave.
So long you're consistent.
Yeah.
I don't care.
I'm a scaredy cat. I'm afraid of everything.
Yeah, but you made it, and that's
did.
we added to your confidence to know that when roads have a little snow on it, you live in Ohio, you have to have the skill set that go in a parking lot that has some snow and see how your vehicle behaves.
Well, and the only other thing too that made me feel a little bit better is my car has a little like snow setting. I don't really know what that does. I'm assuming does 4-wheel drive or whatever. And I knew no one else is going out today. So if I do slide, I'm not like sliding into oncoming traffic.
Yeah.
If it were busy out there, I'd be like, no, it's not worth my life. I'm not doing it.
I suggest, just like anything else, you practice in the roads that you are inexperienced at. Go get good at it. It's just like anything else. You go slower. Like I drove back from Cleveland and Akron in 2 snowstorms, and those are the worst treks of my life, right?
Oh God, I would have died.
And
of anxiety.
the roads had yet to be plowed. There were single lanes of traffic. Everybody was going 30 miles an hour. And it's almost like you had all the smart people on those roads at the time because everybody adhered to safety, right? Nobody
Yeah.
tried to pass. Nobody got anxious. Nobody
rode your
impatient.
ass.
No.
Oh, I still had people
Everybody
doing that
fell
to me.
in line. So this is why I say, like, when the survivors come out, I know I'm dealing with people who know how to not die, right? And so these are all of the skill sets. Like if you're looking to Joe's wisdom at this point, assemble tools that increase the probability of you surviving, increase the skill set so you get good at things that maybe other people aren't good at, and stay away from stupid people. That's really the only three people.
And
three things.
honestly, that's my fear, I think. Like if I knew like today, most people are not going to be out. I've got some wiggle room. It's not as scary. I am scared of other idiots because I have seen when it's not snowing out and it's just a typical nice day, how I am almost repeatedly struck by cars. I'd say all the time, how often someone crosses left of center into my lane is absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
In this day and age, I cannot believe this still happens so much. Or people come up and they ride my ass and they've almost hit me because I have to, I don't know, slow down to turn. And so it's the idiots. And I know, oh my God, I'm surrounded by idiots. And conditions now are more dangerous. So I'm just like, ugh.
But this is sort of the Super Bowl.
My mic arm is in the way.
And so
It's blocking you.
Oh, down, not
Thanks,
in volume.
BJ.
Okay.
No. My mic arm is like right in your face. I can't.
Listen,
I can't do it.
How it goes.
Thank
Down,
you.
up.
Thank you. There we go. Thanks,
You see
BJ.
this one? This is sort of the template. Make yours look like that, and we'll be good.
Anywho, yeah, I'm afraid of other people. That's why I'm scared.
Okay.
That's why I'm scared. My husband and I, he used to own a motorcycle, and I was scared to death to ride the motorcycle. And the handful of times I did it, it was a lot of fun. It was very nice, especially on beautiful days. And we gave it up because I cannot trust other idiots. That's my fear.
Let's talk about ice. Let's talk about the shooting in
Guessing
Minneapolis.
not the ice on the road.
No. Let's talk about Alex Preddy. Did you hear about this over the weekend?
This is the nurse or something Yeah, I've heard a little bit about it.
Okay, so second high-profile killing that happened in Minneapolis, and it followed the same template. And spoiler, everyone who's following everything in Minneapolis, this will not be the last, and it will probably ramp up even worse than it is right now. You can't, like, I'm a probability statistics person. When you take certain things, you have a long enough timeline with a number of instances that increases over time, and you get these things assuredly. There's no way of avoiding it. You get a bunch of people who, that have maybe good tolerances early on, but the longer something goes on, your tolerances go down. And you have the chaos that ensues from those probabilities. So we had an interaction between a militant protester and ICE, and the effect was that this person was apprehended. They had concealed carry, permitted concealed carry, and he was shot. Okay, during the struggle, there were 3 ICE officers. He was thrown to the ground. It didn't look like anything was brandished. He didn't pull the firearm, but just having a firearm sort of like entrenched both sides of this argument. If you go, I saw a couple weeks ago, there was a dude that was sitting on back of a pickup truck with a rifle across his chest.
Oh, geez.
Okay. Because the protesters are ramping things up. They're protecting themselves against assault. If the narrative is that their lives are put in danger by standing up to the tyranny of ICE, then obviously it ramps up to weaponization and strategies and tactics that are more dangerous at this point. That's why I said the inevitability is that you get more injured and killed people, because both sides ramp up at the same time in proportion to each other's actions. And that's why the warning of you turn up the temperature, you make it more likely for things to happen, and then you cannot be surprised when they actually happen. So if Tim Walz comes on TV and says, Jacob Fry says, stand up to ICE and don't back down and push them out of the city. Okay, well, the narrative has been given. Your people are like, yes, sir, I'm going to do that. Stand up against ICE.
Yeah.
And then you see ICE go for 2 months of they're not changing their ways. They're not changing the arrest. They're not changing their investigations. So last strategy wasn't effective. You almost have to ramp it up because nobody's listening to you. They're not getting the message. They're not getting out of your city. They're not stopping, the arrests and the detainments. So then they proportionally keep ramping things up. So anyway, so long and short, do you think now that the good story, we obviously knew there was a threat to the lives of an officer, and having a justified shooting was, it's arguable, but still, like in my case, you lose life and you better have a really good justification.
Yeah.
People are too precious in order to just willy-nilly take someone's life. And so if I engineer things, I'm going to make it as less likely to have someone lose their life. And it seems like all of the people who are controlling this are making it more likely that people lose their lives. So in this case, videos that you've seen, commentary that you've heard, do you think this was the wrong on the side of ICE, or do you think this is the wrong on the side of
So with this guy's instance in particular, I've not yet seen any video. Yes. I've not read much. Like you said, I know he had a weapon on him. Yes. You're saying he didn't pull it, he didn't brand it, nothing.
It was taken from him by ICE. It was not in his possession when he was shot.
Okay. So to me, that is ICE stepping over the line.
Okay.
If it's already off of him, why is he getting shot? Like you said, the temperature has increased so far that I'm not saying either side is the only ones to blame. Clearly, both are. In my opinion, I think a protester at this point, trying to stand up to ICE is knowingly putting yourself in danger. You don't have to agree with what they're doing. You don't have to like that they're there. You have every right to protest. But I'm not talking about the protesters with their signs and staying on the sidewalks and staying out of their face. If at this point you show up to physically get in the face of an ICE agent and how heated the situation is now, to me, this is the equivalent of like two siblings in the backseat of a car, and the one's got their finger in the other face and they're like, I'm not touching you. I'm not touching you. That's like what they're doing to ICE agents now.
Yeah.
You don't have to like them. You don't have to like what they're doing. But if you put a weapon on your body and go and walk up to them in any capacity, that's what you're doing. You're taunting them. You're taunting a person who is already in a heightened state of fear and anxiety and not knowing who's going to hurt them or who's going to come after them and who can I trust. They have a job to do, whether you like it or not. They're doing it. And you can't stop them. You can't. You can call your representatives. You can make your signs. You can try to get petitions signed. You can make social media posts. You can make sure that when you vote next time, you don't vote for anyone that started this. You can do all these other things. But at this time, if you walk up to an ICE agent and you were hurt, I have a very hard time having any kind of sympathy. And at the same time, I don't want ICE agents killing people. I don't want anyone to die. I don't think maybe in some cases they're using enough discretion before they pull a weapon. I think they are being dangerous. So get the hell away from them.
So, okay, you have the ICE agents, you have the protesters. If the protesters stop following ICE around, would ICE start following the protesters?
I don't think so.
Okay. So ICE would go after protesters and hunt them. Like if they went to the
I
park.
have nothing to do. I think I'll go and like get in the face of a protester and try to start beef with them.
So it would end if the protesters stopped. Okay. So that's
I think so.
One argument is you're putting yourself in the position for something to happen. That is 100% certain, right? Now the argument of tyranny, where when our founders spoke very highly when the government gets to a set to a tyranny, to a level of oppression, it is the responsibility of those who are governed to push up against the tyranny. So the argument is, if you then are against tyranny, right? And you can make the argument that this is a move of tyranny. So what is tyranny?
People taking control by force and you really have no say.
Give me some examples of where you as you and your husband, you're at your house and you're like, the whole world is tyrannical. What kind of what kind of demonstration of authority, right, that you're going to say, this is freaking tyranny?
If a government comes and says, stay in your house, you can't leave, brandishes a weapon and says, I don't care what you were going to do today, you're not allowed to leave your own home.
Okay. I have a simple definition.
Yeah.
Is, do you have the right to be left alone? Right? So if you go off into a corner of a field, nobody can bother you. Tyranny is when they come bother you anyway, when you weren't doing anything to anyone.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And so these liberal arts graduates, these liberal white women, right? They want to play a role in history. They have no purpose in this world. They're largely ignored. So they want to be a revolutionary, right? So they want to take words that mean something like tyranny and make like their own version of it. They want to pretend tyranny. And so they can stand up against the pseudo tyranny. They want to be heroes. They want to be of their time, someone who was willing to do a Rosa Parks, to do what was the attic lady?
The attic, not addict. Oh my!
What the heck's her name?
God, Anne Frank.
Anne Frank. Everybody wants to be that hero, but if you're not getting the tyranny that you need, you have to make pseudo tyranny where you have to put yourself, like the poking in your eye. I'm going to walk up to the Queen's Guard who wouldn't have messed with me, but I'm going to go up and poke them in the eye. And then when they react and do Queen's Guard stuff, then I'm going to say, hey, look, there was tyranny. But the tyranny only came through the aggressive nature of what you were trying to get the tyranny to do. So it's like, you're not going to do tyranny, so I'm going to make you do tyranny, so then I can say it's tyranny and then I can stand up to you. Like it's a bad mix.
Yeah, and I have a question too about like, and I'm not anywhere in the state. I'm trying to get like a visual of this. So when Julie says like they're tear gassing and flash bombing peaceful protesters, Is ICE just walking the streets and going up to public buildings and things of that nature? Or are they specifically going to homes
they
and
are
stuff?
formulating their peaceful protests at exchange points, right? Places where cars are coming out of a parking garage, or places where it's concentrated that there's going to be ICE. Typically, ICE basically deploys from their central station and does a roundup or an investigation somewhere, and the protest follows them. So if they stop somewhere, the protest forms. They're not sitting on. They're not
just out at like a public building.
No,
somewhere.
They're not doing canvassing where they're going to doors and not. That's what the narrative says that they're doing. But if you basically follow how federal law enforcement works, they get dispatched and they get put on duties, either an investigative duty or an enforcement duty, and then they dispatch and go do that thing, and then they come back to home base after they've actually done it. And so the run-ins are basically coming from the choreography of the protesters. They're mapping where ICE is. They're even the deputy governor, lieutenant governor of Minnesota, was part of the signal chats that were being used to choreograph the protests, right? And so this is a deeper thing where you had the levels of government that were complicit in the insurrection of those protesters against federal law enforcement. And so, like I said, like they are setting the stage for bad things to happen. They're politically benefiting when those things happen. It's almost like Nancy Pelosi during January 6th. I'm gonna unlock the doors, right?
Yeah.
Take down the barricades and not put the National Guard. You didn't directly make people come in the building, but you set the stage for something that you wanted to happen so that you can get all the political benefits with at the same time claiming I wasn't involved. I didn't physically unlock the doors or take the barricades down, but I set the stage for what I wanted to happen, more likely to happen.
Like, I don't understand, and maybe Julie can offer some insight here. What is it the protesters think they're going to do? If by now you don't understand that we all get it. We all get it. You don't think I should be there. You think they're being too violent. This is the wrong way to go about things. They're going to hurt people. People are getting hurt who were there and involved. We all know. So when you continue to show up and they want to justify, like all day long, Julie's like, oh, it wasn't standing up to ICE. He was helping somebody. They were doing that. They were doing this. Okay, let's say that's true. Let's say nobody's getting in the face of ICE. They're just showing up and people are getting hurt. So what do you think showing up is going to do? Because your leaders already know you don't want them there. They already themselves don't want them there. It's all clear as day what you want, but you continue to show up and get around them and then wonder why people get hurt. Like, I don't understand what you think you're going to do.
That is the strategy, is that you ramp things up to a point where bad things happen. The public then turns their opinion about it the other direction. The legislature starves funding, and then you win only by playing the political maneuver rather than the protest maneuver. They're creating sacrificial lambs that the people who will bring their firearms out and get in the face of whatever bad things happen, so that sort of like the public's opinion of it turns south, and then they start their win.
Have any of the people in office there been out with signs protesting?
I don't know.
I haven't heard about it. Do you think they stay back and they're like, oh, I'm not going to get hurt? Y'all crazy.
Nudging it in the direction that's most beneficial.
Why don't all you citizens who are also untrained, you can go and contribute to the chaos and get hurt?
How willing is government to sacrifice its supporters for the sake of their deal? Thank you, Isaac.
Morning.
I'm surprised to see you guys
here. Yeah.
We're real workers here.
Stay safe. Yeah.
So anyway, Julie says, just let the Gestapo do their thing. And if I felt like ICE, if the protesters disappeared, and then ICE decided to like really engage and get aggressive with people who weren't actively protesting, then I would agree with you. That's overstepping.
Yeah.
But if you'd leave them alone, right, they
Yeah.
would go do their job, which is to go out, take illegal immigrants and deport them, period. Now, if you have, law enforcement actions that went south and it wasn't by the book, now you've got an argument with me because they're overstepping their bounds, and I'll hear that out. But so far, it's basically the primary job of ICE is to go after illegal immigrants, and all the problems that ICE has been messed with are people who are not supposed to be in their first place. Not even a secondary or a third. It shouldn't even be part of what ICE is dealing with on the daily basis. They got a hard enough job to do as it is.
Yeah.
You had two administrations that let in illegals to get extra votes and to pad their social programs. They had two decades of that, and now you have ICE that has to round up 40 freaking million people in one presidential term who have to run at breakneck speed to bring law and order back to the country. And you're making it hard for them by putting people who are just fodder for politicians to get hurt and injured in a third or fourth realm.
When she says, "Oh, so just let the Gestapo do their thing," yes. Then yes. If you honestly think that's what's happening, what do you think you're going to do about it? And by you, I mean the people that are going down there to stand up to ICE. What do you think you're going to do about it?
Yeah.
Why aren't you yelling at your leaders? Why aren't you making phone calls to them? Why aren't you saying, I demand a response and an answer as to what we are doing? The powers that be that can actually control this. I want to see, are you talking to the president and how often? What are you saying to him? What are you saying to the administration? What are some measures you're taking in place to keep us safe? What do you think you're going to do against how many armed federal agents? I get it. We all think it is valuable to have the right to protest, and it is. But at this point in time and what this has become, you can either keep getting hurt and crying, oh my God, look, people are getting hurt, or you can stop the madness and go about it in a way that may actually be effective and people don't have to get hurt.
All right, let's go Second Amendment here.
Yeah.
So the argument was that you had Republicans and conservatives who are very pro Second Amendment. It is sort of like the one leverage chip that the government should never overstep its bounds, because the number of firearms that are in the public's hands say that you have to mind your P's and Q's, because if you don't, government goes away and the people take control of things. Right? That is the overall "don't tread on me" type of philosophy, the libertarian philosophy. And so when somebody takes a firearm, is it a firearm to a protest where you're engaging with ICE? Is that an expression of Second Amendment? Where's the delineation between when it's a fair legal expression and when it is, number one, the middle part is not necessarily illegal or legal or illegal, but the middle part is it's just a bad freaking idea, and then it would be definitely illegal. So if I had a 6-shooter on my belt, right, that's my right, I can walk around town. When can I not walk around town? So if I had a sign out here that said no concealed carry, no open carry. Now, if I wanted to come in here, right, I would allow you to come in here. My request to come through my door is that you don't carry your firearm. Put it in your lockbox in your glove box, and we're cool. So this is where you can carry it in places where other people's private property, right, say it is not allowed. Now, if I don't say it, let's just say I had a bank and I didn't have a sign out there, and you had a gun, and you're like, well, they don't typically have a sign. I'm going to walk into this bank. Now, is this in the realm of a bad idea?
Yeah.
Now, if I were to walk in expressing my right and the security guard that's working the bank sees that I have a firearm, now, should he just say, oh, he's just expressing a Second Amendment, or come engage you, talk to you, ask you why you have a firearm, make the plead with you that this isn't the proper place for a firearm. I know we don't disallow it, but I'd feel more comfortable. Now, do you have to listen to the security guard when they make the don't have the gun on you? Is it the bad idea realm?
Yeah, I would be like, not a good place for this. Take it out. Okay.
All right. So the Sunday shows basically said that conservatives are coming from the deal with, if you go to a protest where it's already super aggressive, really high on the anxiety for everybody involved,
Yep.
don't bring a weapon in.
Everybody's on edge. Everybody is watching out for their life.
What are you communicating when you say something like that?
When you say don't bring a weapon, or when you say
because the
Julies
Julies would say the Gestapo obviously have the advantage because they do have firearms. And if you don't bring yours, how are you going to be one-for-one parity with your oppressors, your Gestapo, or your tyrants? It's a fair argument. They would prefer you didn't have weapons,
Yeah.
and then they can go about their business, right?
Yeah.
So, but you would have to, you still have to make the argument that we're really looking at Gestapo. We're really looking at Gestapo. And that's where you end up losing me, because if I felt like you had militarized federal agents that were terrorizing citizens of the United States, right, for no reason whatsoever, then I would say an armed society pushes against that and push those people out of town. Where you lose me is we're not talking about law abiding, and we're not talking about citizens. We're talking about federal agencies that are doing what they're charged with doing. So I would say, hey, before you go after the legit and legal exercise of federal authority, change the federal authority. That's the first step.
And even if you think you're in a situation that, yes, we as a people need to push back, do you want the dummies going to do it?
No.
Like, he goes by I'm right, you're wrong, because he won't show his name. It was like, Kellen, you're a coward. Yeah. Okay. I'm not trained. I don't know how to shoot. I don't know what I'm doing. I would have zero reference as far as should I shoot or not? Am I being safe? Could I hurt someone else? So I'm not going to freaking go. That's being smart. If you say you better strap on a gun, I don't care what your ability is, and go to the front lines, you're not brave. You're stupid.
Yeah.
And you're going to get yourself killed for nothing.
Right.
Because you have no game plan, no training, no idea what you're doing, and you have proven that you run towards something without thinking about it first.
Yeah, there's not much common sense in those crowds. They're oblivious to what puts themselves in harm. Sometimes I think they're doing it on purpose, and if they got killed by a federal authority, they know they'd be serving their noble conquest of authoritarianism, and they're willingly sacrificing their lives. And on the other side, there's nothing but victim talk when it comes to that. Like, I want to go get killed, but how dare you speak bad words of me?
And they're all like, well, it's important because video will show everyone. It's not. It's not showing anyone, because in our day and age of the internet and algorithms, no one is going to see your content unless they're already there with you. Look at the instance of the little boy that we keep seeing all over the media. The little boy that was either arrested by an ICE agent and held in captivity, a 5-year-old, and kept away from his family, or he was a little boy whose family abandoned him, and ICE agents took care of him and fed him and kept him safe and warm because his family wouldn't even open the door to take him back in, and they were all criminals, and so they had to take care of this little boy. Which narrative do you believe depends on your internet algorithm?
Yeah.
So what do you think the recording's going to do?
We're not talking about crazy people. We're talking about completely reasonable people who are captured by the narrative and won't see anything outside of that little bubble on both sides. Like, you and I are probably the most objective because we can take every one of these instances and point blame wherever it lies, no matter who's, it's pointed at.
Yeah.
But that is not the public at large. They just do not have that ability.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the first woman who was shot was either a mom dropping her kid off from school, accidentally turned down the wrong road and was murdered, or a plotting, what would they say? Domestic terrorist trying to get in the way of ICE, causing problems, and got killed only after she tried to kill him.
Right.
Two totally different stories. And the entire country is seeing what their algorithm shows them.
Kathleen said a man was executed. Enough said. And if that were the entire story, I would agree with that, because I'm a life preservationist. No matter who they are, no matter what crime you commit, there are very few things that I feel that society's made better by ending a life or incarcerating a life or taking life away from somebody. So I am the biggest defender of making sure needless deaths aren't occurring. But on the spreadsheet, right, if you take Minneapolis and you take the problem, the Obama, Biden, Trump, whoever was permitting fentanyl, gangs, crazy illegal immigrants in there, and you take that spreadsheet of loss of life caused by a terrible immigration policy, and then you take the cleaning that mess up. If you took one, okay, so let's just say there was an innocent loss of life on one side while you're trying to execute warrants or take people into custody, but you took 10,000 illegals off the road and you saved 150 lives from being raped, murdered, killed, right?
Mm-hmm.
If it means you lose 2 lives needlessly to get 1,000 lives saved because you did that, I got a halfway look at knowing that it's a net gain to have preserved life because you took an action. It's hard to look at the statistics of good or pretty and say, like, these 2 people should be alive right now today. And then you give me the list of people like, okay, well, in 1,000 or 1,000 illegal immigrants, and that maybe I'm making up numbers here, but let's just say the crime rate is in those 1,000 that 5 people died. And you said, this is the train track analogy, right?
Mm-hmm.
All you have to do is give 2 innocent protesters' lives to save 5 innocent non-protesters' life. A young girl, a single mom, a blue-collar worker. Would you pick the 2 innocent lives to save the 5 illegal immigrant death list? I wouldn't either. It's a terrible selection, right? It's terrible to even frame it like that. But on the spreadsheet, I would take the 2 willing participants in, martyring themselves for their anti-tyrannical cause to save the people who stayed home that day, had no interest whatsoever. They didn't aggress. They're totally innocent on one side. That's my selection. So the 80-year-old versus the 15-year-old, it's the same kind of logic. Who deserves to die? Well, nobody. But if you're forced into a choice, 80-year-old's going to die every time, just because of the net positive that the 12 or 14-year-old can add.
And you know what's so disheartening too is, like, I've seen people say this is becoming closer and closer to leading us to civil war.
It is.
Because all these people watching want to fight with each other. They don't like what we said. They're mad at us. And then in the same vein said, well, the officials aren't doing anything about it. So who's your enemy? Us or the officials not doing anything about it?
So if you had the ear of the officials, what would you tell them to say that cleans this mess up?
Everybody get the hell away from each other. Stay inside. Don't go near ICE agents. We're going to go ahead and handle this. We are working on it. We are doing everything we can to get this stopped. Don't get in their face. If you think it's dangerous, get the hell out of the way and let us handle it.
And if Julie had the scepter, she doesn't see the problem as the protester. She sees the problem as ICE. So what would Julie do if she were holding the scepter? Here's what she would do.
Wondering.
She would kick ICE out of Minneapolis, and then the underground of illegal immigrants would then be able to kill and maim through whatever behaviors contribute to this problem in the first place. So you will choose the deaths of a couple of people to get rid of the real criminals, and Julie would pick the criminals, and then news headlines would not be about enforcement. It would be about, oh, just some gang member did this thing and took some life.
First, I just want to make this clear. Who can kick ICE out? Who has the power to say, ICE, you got to get out?
Federal has jurisdiction no matter where they choose.
So ultimately, it's the president. would have to kick them out. Nobody else can.
It's an executive branch. It's not technically the president. It would be the executive branch, whoever the director of ICE would be. Homan? I guess it's Homan. Homan would have to say, screw you. Here's what would happen. We're not sending ICE to Minneapolis, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we're going to have to wall Minnesota off so that it's not receiving any federal funds, and none of Minnesota's problems can affect taxpayers in other adjoining states. And you're just on your own. So if you want illegal immigration, we're not going to count your votes because you're out of the electoral college, because all you've done is fraudulently get jurisdictions and extra electoral votes. Like you're just done and gone. That's the real. You can't take the benefits of being a state where you say, I'm willing to follow the federal rules in order to get the benefits of being part of the state. You'd have to secede, do your own thing, know that the way you got things going on is awesome, and not be on the tit of the United States government.
And why is this only a problem in Minnesota when
because
ICE
they are
is not
sanctuary states?
So sanctuary states, these people have been allowed to stay there and not face any repercussions. Other states is not the case.
Oh no, there's six. There are six cities or states that are considered sanctuary.
So how come only Minnesota is having
That's
this
a good
huge
question.
problem?
Why? Well, I'm going to say that if I'm in the executive branch and I want to take bead on all of my sanctuary states, I'm not starting with California and New York. I'm not starting with Illinois. I'm going to start with some low-hanging fruit, something that I can go in, clean up rather quickly, and then use that model to go in other states. Do you think the people who chose Minnesota to start with thought it was going to be such a cluster F, right?
Yeah.
Now that there's no other state that is going to, welcome ICE into it. So that's where I think from a strategy standpoint, that they might have been the lowest hanging fruit, but they definitely did not go as planned.
Do you think, I'm trying to be devil's advocate for the other side.
Yeah.
Are they doing this to Minnesota because they don't like Walz and
No.
they're sticking it to him?
I doubt it. I think it was the smallest problem on the board. If you took statistically, if you had California who had 10 million illegals and you had Minnesota that had 100,000 illegals, you can get those cleaned up pretty quick within a couple of years. And that could be, at least you will have one done. Like you went to Washington, D.C. and cleaned up the streets first because you got that knocked out in like 2 weeks, right? And you need a win to be able to sell that to more cities that are more crime infested. You need, in fact, like Florida and Texas, they actually have more illegal immigration. The difference between a Minnesota and a Texas is Texas follows the rules. And when they come across an illegal, they turn those people over to the federal government, right? They are
They don't
partner.
need so many ICE
Minnesota's
agents.
like, they sneak them out the back door and they help run protections for the illegal. So they're working against the federal government.
Okay, so that's why, there's a lot of people like Matthew saying, oh, we're not doing this in Texas. It's blah, blah, blah. They're picking on Minnesota. But because Minnesota is a sanctuary state, ICE agents are the only ones going after
Correct.
the illegals. Texas is like, no, we'll help you.
Yeah,
We'll
that
send
would be
them
my
off.
negotiation. I would say, hey, you want ICE agents out of here. Why don't, when somebody enters into the system and they're an illegal, that you call us and tell us to go pick one up so we don't have to go find them in spite of you. Like the city and law enforcement are working against what ICE is doing, where Texas and Florida are working with ICE to do that. And they don't have to do
I'm
those
assuming are there protesters in Texas and all these other states saying, hey, don't get rid of these people?
No, it's freaking easier because local law enforcement turns those people over. ICE
Whereas
doesn't have
Minnesota
to go to,
encourages the public to get out and fight.
Yes.
We missed a whole bunch of comments. We're getting to you guys. We're getting to you. People are amped up.
Kyle Rittenhouse. Here's the difference. And again, liberals, some days I think you know this and you just want to say the thing anyway. And some days I think you really don't know it. Do you remember Kyle Rittenhouse?
I saw someone posted a picture over the weekend and it reminded me of him.
Okay.
I can't remember the
So
exact
Kyle
situation.
Rittenhouse killed a couple of people during the protests in, what was it? Where was it at?
I We might have to Google it. I don't remember.
Anyway.
I can think of
Okay,
the
scenario. Here's where it is not a parody example with what's going on today.
Yeah.
So Kyle Rittenhouse came from a different state to a car dealership that was owned by a family member. And he was patrolling and keeping the inventory and the property safe from people who would be setting shit on fire.
Okay, this is coming back to me now. Yeah.
He left the property and pursued people that were on the street and was assaulted by the people that were on the street and killed those people. So somebody hit him with a skateboard or whatever.
Yeah.
So he was in the vicinity of protecting property. So if people wouldn't have come there, he wouldn't have wandered out away from the property. And so he was in a defensive posture. He was sort of he was castling himself versus going to where things are at and antagonizing people who want to do damage. So this guy wasn't like protecting something from ICE, right? He was going to ICE to cause a problem. And that's the difference between the two.
Kyle Rittenhouse also wasn't law enforcement there to do a job. And I remember saying, Kyle shouldn't have been there. I said, you're a kid with a big gun. What is it you think you're going to do? Like, I get it. You think you're protecting what's yours. You're not seeking out trouble. You're not going towards anyone, but you're a kid with a big gun. And I don't think you're ready for this and you shouldn't be there. I say the same thing to anyone else going to a fight. Like, don't show up to a gunfight with a knife. Don't show up ill-equipped. At this point, anybody I think who's not a federal agent is ill-equipped to be there because tensions have gotten so bad.
But if law enforcement would have quelled the protests, then Kyle Rittenhouse wouldn't have had anything to do. It's only when the local law enforcement decides it's not going to do their job,
right,
then citizenry have to take up arms themselves to defend property.
And that's the thing is, we, and by we, I mean like the general public and people, are so busy fighting with each other that they are giving a free pass to the local and the state representatives that aren't doing what they should do. And it's like, there's where the Civil War comes from. Like, do you think they give two shits if you take up a gun and you hit the streets and you try to fight back and you get killed? All you are is a ploy to their own political gain. Like, where are they? Where are they? All these people are saying, but they're not doing what they're supposed to do. They're not doing what they're supposed to do. So it's up to us. If you feel that way, I'd be pretty freaking ticked off at my representatives. If I felt like, oh my God, it's up to us. We, the citizens who are unarmed or untrained or ill-equipped to handle an entire mass group of federal agents with guns and trucks and vehicles, it's up to us. I'm going to be pretty pissed at my representatives.
Yeah,
I'll be more mad at them
but if they don't,
than the other people.
If they don't see the writing on the wall and say this is really getting to a untenable state, and say, all right, well, we let the First Amendment people let everybody know that they were displeased with what's happening. We can't allow law breaking. So get on the curb, make your signs, get your megaphone. But the minute that you block traffic or you impede an investigation, it's an immediate, in the back of a paddy wagon and put these people into a pasture where all the lawbreakers can be together. But you got to break it up. But the concerning part is that the state is complicit in the choreography of the protests. So it's not like they want to quell it. They're part of it. The lieutenant governor of Minnesota was in the signal chats that were basically organizing how they were going to protest against the state. So the state was playing against the state. And so if you don't think that bad things are going to happen when, you have money flowing in to organize protests, you have pallets of bricks that are put on street corners by these people. Signs are pre-made. Money is flowing into the protests. You don't think it's going to ramp up when they're really well funded and really well organized?
Mm-hmm. And can we just quell something?
Yeah.
If Matthew or Julie or any of these other people continue to attempt to make the argument that we think anybody deserved death because they're liberal, you're not listening and you're being childish. Joe has never, ever said anyone deserved to die. We've said multiple times we need to do everything possible to make sure people aren't being killed. And just because you don't like how we think people should avoid being killed doesn't mean we think anyone should die. You're either not listening or you're being childish. Find a grown-up argument. Anywho, so go ahead.
All right. Matt says Joe only likes the Second Amendment when Republicans use it.
About.
The moment a liberal uses it, they deserve death. Incorrect. Here's what I know about every single one of your rights. When you exercise a right, your responsibility goes up, not down. You don't get to claim I was just passive citizen. The minute that you pull that right out of your belt, you now have to understand the repercussions of using that right. So if I put a gun on, I can do it. But now there's some things that there's some sensitivities for me doing it. So if I walk up to you and you don't like the gun, guess what? You can feel terrible towards me because now I've given you a reason to treat me and behave around me differently. That's my responsibility to say, Kellen, I want to let you know this is for self-protection. I have the safety on and it's not even loaded. I wanted to let you know so you can feel safe. My responsibility level went up. I'm driving in my car. I've got a Glock on my passenger seat. I get pulled over, right? Mm-hmm. Guess what I have to do? Officer, I have a gun here. I have to do more and be more patient, be more kind, be more communicative. If I just go back to I'm just a passive person, then I don't deserve the expression of that right because I don't pay the cost and consequence of the responsibility that goes along with it. That's the difference. Yeah. Liberals want to be liberal while carrying a gun without elevating their responsibility where they have to be a better human being, more responsible, more disciplined human being so that expression doesn't work against them.
Yeah, we can be both for your rights and also think you got to be careful when you use them. And you may not like that. Maybe it's almost like we've used the analogy before of like the girl in the bar that starts a fight because she doesn't think you'll hit her back. Like anything you do, someone else can react to. And you may have all the rights in the world to do it. But there will be a reaction. So don't be dumb when you exercise the right.
Yeah.
Just be safe.
And that's the liberal mentality. They want a free expression. Like, I want to be able to say anything to you, but I also want to be insulated from you being able to say something back to me. So I'm going to say, you're stupid. And I have the right to say it. And it's like, I want to make sure that I seal your mouth shut so that you can't then say something that's going to hurt my feelings, because now I should be able to say something without the repercussions from what I said or did.
Like, I want to be like, okay, Julie or Matthew or whoever, I want you to take a firearm and I want you to strap it to yourself, go to Minneapolis and stand right on a street and yell at an ICE agent. Do it right now. You have every right to. You're not breaking any laws. You're allowed to carry. You're not getting in their face. Take a gun, strap it to yourself, go to Minneapolis and start yelling at agents. Do it. Well, I don't feel safe to do that. No shit. But you think we're the bad guys when we say, hey, that might increase some risks in your life. That might not be a good idea to do right now. Am I going to go to a high crime area of an urban city where I know there are drive-by shootings and there are robberies and there are people continuously committing crimes? And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go hang out there tonight. I feel like putting a gun on my hip and walking into a high crime area. You're going to say, you have every right to do that, but I wouldn't right now. That's a little, you're kind of amping up your danger level.
Increasing the probability of bad things to happen.
Yeah.
Julie says 73% of those detained are not criminals. Why is Pam Bondi willing to pull ICE out of Minnesota if they give up their voter rolls? Well, that was the objective for Democrats, to increase the voter rolls by bringing in illegal people. And when you say criminals, I watched Don Lemon make this argument with someone about that the misdemeanor or it was not a felony to be an illegal immigrant, right? But to say they're not criminals, see, criminal to me is someone who doesn't acknowledge the law. They're going to do whatever they're going to do, and they're going to be criminals. So if you get a speeding ticket, right, are you a criminal?
Yes,
Okay,
technically.
you have broken a law, right? But
Yeah.
are you a criminal?
I'm not like a hardened, dangerous criminal.
Does the rest of society say, oh, speeding ticket, keep the kids away from Kellen?
No,
right?
probably not.
Now, to make the argument that technically you're a criminal when you have broken the law, not just broken it, but don't agree with following the law to begin with. So if you're a speeder, right,
Yeah.
and you get pulled over and the cop's like, hey, I caught you speeding. And you're like, I don't follow speeding laws. You can suck it, right?
Mhm.
Or versus, I had a lapse in judgment and I sped. I know I shouldn't have. I'm going to plan and not do that anymore. Well, when you have a criminal who broke a law, but then they don't repent, they don't make any moves to right what they did wrong. They almost want to take the wrong that they did and keep doing wrong. It's an ongoing criminal. Someone who's shouldn't be here, is staying here, is not going back, is not paying their fines, is not making right by the crime that they committed. It's like, I'm speeding and you're telling me I'm speeding, but I'm going to keep speeding anyway. If that doesn't make someone who has complete disregard for laws, then to me, anybody who is like that is an ongoing criminal. They're in what is that? They're in the something of a crime. They're in. Why's my head going? In the blah blah of a crime, the
process or the
we'll say process of a crime.
Yeah.
There's a word for it, but anyway, they're currently doing it. So it's not like, hey, I pulled you over, you broke in this country illegally, and you're still here. And if you're like, yeah, suck it, right? Then you're the criminal. They want ICE to pick you up and take you elsewhere. If it's like, check yourself and I committed a crime and I want to make this right. I'm willing to do whatever and I won't commit any more crimes. Now that's a person that can merge into our society because they've acknowledged the errors of their way. They're willing to make it right and do the right thing. And now we give them a little bit of grace. But for liberals to say 73% of them, 73% of the illegal immigrants, it's in the word, right, are not criminals doesn't wash with me. From the very beginning, when Trump pitched this whole roundup of illegal immigrants, he said he was going to start with the people who have committed crimes other than just being here illegally. And that was a very popular thing to say. The rest of us to say, yeah, start with those guys. Track them down. Anybody who's dealing drugs or committing robberies or murdering and whatever, those are the first ones I want out the door. The guy that's been here for 16 years and starting to raise a family and has a job and hasn't committed any crime, that guy needs to figure out a way to get them into society because they've proven themselves. They might have started off by committing a crime, but ever since they've been here, they haven't. And I would feel guilt if I took that person and then just shoved him out.
Especially when for years other administrations have let them. So,
as their strategy,
right?
Not just permitted it, depended on it, encouraged it, and bankrolled it. That's where we really get to the crux of this. And I think a lot of those, since the original crime committed, they've done nothing but good. I think because such things turned so polarized that we got into, if you're a criminal, then you're in the same basket and you're going back.
Yeah. Carter says, if I was Trump, I'd pull ICE out of Minneapolis and tell the governor and mayor that many criminals have been arrested. You have made your bed and can lie in it. And when you need me, call me.
Yeah. And cut off funding.
They'll never call. They'll never call them.
The only reason, okay, they have social services. They get them from the federal government, and they now have more representation in government. Take those two away, and a couple things happen. If you take away the benefit of having illegals there, you remove the incentive, and there's no politician that will try to get more illegals in your community. Number two, and this is conservatives might want to try this. Try to get those illegal immigrants to vote Republican, and then you change the government. So if all those people came in and just voted Republican, immediately, Tim Walz would himself deport these people.
What do you think would happen? So I feel like the right is always accusing the left of bribing illegals. Come here, we'll hook you up, we'll give you all this free stuff, and just vote for me. And then what would happen if instead of fighting back, the right said, all right, vote for me and I'll give you even more. I'll give you even better. I'll do this. I'll do that. And they just bribed them higher. And then maybe the left's like, well, no, vote for me and I'll give you this. And the right's like, well, vote for me, I'll give you this. At what point do you think the rest of America is like, this is bullshit? Get them at it. Like, wouldn't that then sort of make everyone else like, that's not fair?
Even better, there are countries, especially Latin American countries, the Catholics, that if you had an immigration policy, if the Republicans started stacking their states with a bunch of illegal immigrants from conservative states, that would be a play directly against it. So I mean, turnabout's fair play. I think that's what's going to end up happening, is that if like, hey, you won't get rid of yours, we'll just bring in, and whoever's better at this ends up winning. Yeah. Right. And that's where the entropy gets way too high at that point.
Like, have you ever gone to a doctor's office and you're required to have insurance? We all have to have health insurance. At one point, that was a requirement. I have health insurance and I get my bill, and Joe Schmo over here does not have health insurance and he gets his bill and it's lower. And I went, wait a minute, I want that deal. Can I get that deal? No, you went about things the way you should have, and I'm giving him a discount.
Yeah.
I'd be like, F this.
That is the incentive right there.
Then I will not go about things the right way if I'm going to prosper better.
Yeah, and that's the math of our country, is that when you give all the advantage to the people who don't follow rules, you get more people who don't want to follow the rules. And then when you get too many people that are not following the rules, you get everything that's happening right now. And we'll pay that consequence. I'm kind of, curious as how they write this, but it's going to get worse before it gets better. There's a lot more of this storyline that's going to unfold that hasn't happened yet, that has nothing to do with illegal immigration. But it has all of the same hallmarks of, when you corrupt an institution where your currency isn't like the right thing, it's the most advantageous thing, then you really, so do you think it's outlandish to say that conservatives wouldn't say, hey, we're losing this whole immigrant thing, I'm going to go to, whatever country, and we're just going to mass import them into Arkansas, right? Could they do it? Yeah, precedence has been set.
Yeah.
Would they do it and not feel bad that they had hypocrisy going on right there, right? And then the rest of us would be like, okay, well, I guess that's fair, right?
Yeah.
And then the rest of us are like, dude, all you're doing is stalking illegal people to fraud the numbers so that you get elected or your party gets elected more. Yeah. If that's the whole game, then that's what we're going to succumb to.
It would be, again, using the country as their own game for their own prosper, and yet we fight each other about it.
So, Janet, I disagree. Like, they are grabbing anyone who they think are illegal. You'll have to give me some justification for that. I have not seen just I thought you were illegal.
I've heard a lot of people that are more left-leaning say, oh, I know of someone there. They're going after anyone with dark skin, pulling them out of their cars, dragging them off the street, following them to their homes. Like, they're just, darker skin, I'm going after you. Number one, you're going to have to prove that that's the case. And number two, let's say they're just arresting people they think are illegal. Do they then just release them? Do they check their ID and their paperwork once they get to wherever, and they're like, all right, you're good, and then they let them go? I don't know. I had a conversation with someone last week who is very left-leaning and is posting all these things on Facebook, just amped up. And I said, just so you know, the people you're fighting with, they're not seeing what you're seeing. And that's what I was talking about earlier, the algorithm. Well, ICE just did this. Okay. Why do you think ICE did that? Well, here's a video. Great. Here's a video my algorithm showed me that shows the exact opposite. Well, they did this. Okay. How about this angle? Here's a video I saw. Shows the exact opposite. Oh, well, all they want to do is this. I could say, oh, well, I think ICE is doing this. Well, that's a lie. Is it a lie? Here's my source saying it's not. Do you have a source saying it is? Like, this is what we're doing, people. Everybody is seeing two totally different narratives and two totally different pieces of information, and both sides are sure. I am sure I've got the right one and you've got the wrong one, right? Like, I know that my sources are right and your sources are wrong, and my camera angle is right and your camera angle is wrong. And all we're going to do is fight each other while all the leaders and people in position keep using us as their pawns. And oh, go ahead, do whatever. You guys are going to go kill each other in the streets. And I'm going to use every bit of
that's why I
this.
don't believe it. We have a city here, Poland, right, that is infamous for pulling people over, right? If you go 5 miles over the speed limit, they'll pull you over, right? They're a village, or maybe there's a township. I don't know which I was in, but they have the ability in law enforcement to do certain things. And when you pass that trigger, they can pull you over. So if you're driving through and you have a license plate light out or a tail light out, or you swerved across the little, they have a lot of leeway in the reasons why they can stop you, pull you over, right? Mm-hmm. So let's just say an article started going around that said that 69% of the people pulled over in Poland were black, right? And so it'd be very easily say that they're picking on black people. If Poland's a majority white and you're a black dude driving through Poland, you could very easily say 69% of the people that pulled over, they're singling out black people to be able to pull over, right? Origin of the curiosity. Want to see if that's the case. So you look through the reasons for people being pulled over. And if it is a, old grandma driving a minivan versus a Cadillac that has lights and bass on it, and they do the exact same thing, pull up to the light the same way, you're a cop and you can't watch everybody, but you're going to watch somebody. Who stood out to you more? The minivan or the bass thumping, whatever? Vehicle. What poses a higher probability that someone who doesn't live in the city is rolling through? They both did something. Which one is the cop are you going to pull over, and why?
Probably the one that's catching more attention.
Grab my attention.
Yeah.
You stood out a little bit more. Now, is it because you were black? Maybe. Do I have the ability to pick a white guy and a black guy doing the same thing? Do I have discretion in which one I choose to pull over? Is there a rule that says I got to pull the white guy over? Is there a rule that says the black guy probably doesn't live here, so I'm going to pull him over? All of the things that go into police officers making decisions that are just, right? And then you couple that, and let's just say there was one dude on the police force that he really didn't like black dudes. So he decided to use his discretion and always pick the black dude. All right. Then now you've got very sensitive things that law enforcement has to do and rolling it out. So how many illegal immigrants do you think were of Mexican descent?
Probably a lot.
Okay. And in that, do you think law enforcement can take certain liberties and have certain discretions in who they decide to ask for papers? If I'm going through a DUI checkpoint, right? Mm-hmm. And they're asking for my identity. And if I don't have an identity, then I could be ramped up because I couldn't give them identification, right? Versus people who have licenses. So are there segments of our population that a different set of rules apply to them only because of that different set of circumstances?
Yeah. I mean, 9/11. If within the following months, maybe year after 9/11 happened, if you got on a plane and somebody who very much looked, dressed, and sounded Middle Eastern was on your plane, are you at all nervous? Mm-hmm. At all?
Yeah.
You're not a bad person. You're not a racist. You're not a bigot. You're not whatever. But a very high profile, horrific thing just happened. And a certain demographic happened to be around that very high profile event. And when you see someone that fits that same demographic, tell me you're not at least a little bit taken aback.
Well, how do you then square it? And how do you keep yourself in check to make sure that you're not using your brain to categorize and compartmentalize a race of people and putting them all in the same basket? If a Middle Eastern guy got on my plane, my brain would think it, but then how do I write it so I'm not like,
so you don't
he
act
might
on
not
it.
be.
Yeah.
Now it would take more things. Like if I were being reasonable, I would say, let's just say the guy was Middle Eastern and he got in the aisle way and started praying to Allah. He then had a bulge in his jacket, right? And he was saying weird things to. I add all of those up, and I see if he's a risk. Now, is it his then responsibility to prove to everyone around him that he's not going to take over the cockpit and crash the plane into a building? Is it his responsibility, or is it everybody else's responsibility to say, listen, I can't have these thoughts. They're misaligned. They're immoral, right? If we lived in that society, then I would say that's the case. Do you think you're judged every day? Do you think everyone judged being a blonde girl and ever given attributes or things because of your hair color?
Yeah.
How about short stature? How about Italians? It's what we do. We classify and criticize based on what we can gather from what we run into on the surface.
I mean, if you and I are pulled over by a police officer, should we just sit back, relax? They got no reason to say or do anything to us. I know my rights. Or am I going to be like, this dude could be on edge. He's in a position that rightfully so is putting himself in harm's way, coming up to a vehicle that he doesn't know who's in it. Am I going to take responsibility and show him my hands at all times? I'm going to directly communicate any movements I'm going to make. Why can't it be on the person to say, here's a highly intense situation and I'm going to do everything I can to diffuse it? And I don't think that's asking too much.
Well, you asked about if we're on the precipice of a civil war, is because these are the conversations that need to be first and foremost, right? Mm-hmm. Stories about people that break through some of those contained categories that people are afraid of, right? 9/11, illegal immigrants. We create a boogeyman in one of these categories, and everybody first thought is to making sure the person in front of you is not the thing that you're absolutely afraid of. This is a academic pursuit, but instead of having this academic pursuit, we're going the opposite direction. We're not trying to be considerate to people. We're trying to vilify all people. So if you're like, don't vilify LGBTQ, right? Don't vilify them. But you as a white dude, you are evil and you're terrible and you're a man and whatever. Those two things can't exist at the same time. It's a reciprocal thing where I'm going to say, hey, I'm going to take all of my insecurities about things and I'm going to shelve them. And then you're going to try to be a really good person so I can see how awesome people are. And you are going to do the same thing. I'm going to take this category, and I'm going to suspend all of my stereotypes, and I'm going to have you prove yourself with your integrity and your actions that you're not any of those things I thought you were.
Oh, yeah. No, instead, I mean, take anybody off the street who's not on a podcast and publicly, not to your friends, not to your close friends or family, publicly state, hey, if I were to go to an urban part of town at night by myself, I'd be scared. Why? Are you racist? Why? What kind of racism? Like, hey, if I'm getting on a plane and there's someone who looks Middle Eastern, I get a little nervous. Oh, you bigot. Who's got the balls to say that out loud? And why? Why do you feel scared to admit that? Because they're going to jump on you and call you a name instead of being like, you know what? There's some risk assessment in that. That's valid to be taken aback a little bit because your spidey senses are up and you're trying to see the risks around you. I get why you would be a little nervous in situations like that. But no, I can't believe you said that. You must be some kind of racist or bigot or intolerable person. Why would you feel bad going to because of their color of their skin or how they look? That's terrible for you. Oh, okay. Like, hey, I'm going to not go to the heart of a fight with ICE agents in Minneapolis because I know people are getting killed. And people have weapons on both sides. There's guns in that situation. I'm not going to go. What are you, a coward?
What if I pay you $1,500 per week to go and to Minneapolis?
I mean, I'm not.
I bet you there's a bunch of people that will take that Craigslist.
Seriously. Somebody told me, this person I was talking to who was more left leaning. We brought up the idea of paid protesters, people that are kind of shipped in and incentivized to go cause problems. And he said that's a myth. There's been absolutely no proof of that. Have you ever found proof of that?
So, okay. This is a mathematical certainty.
Yeah.
Okay. It's always when there's absolutes, red flag goes right up. When somebody says elections, there's no fraud. You have no proof of that, right? Because no reasonable person on anything of scale where there's a huge demand for something, that there isn't inauthenticity that's built in. So anybody who says it's not happening, super suspicious of. I take anything that comes out of their brain and I put it in the ground right away.
Yeah.
Now, if somebody says, hey, there's probably frauds happening and we don't want it to happen, and here's what we're doing to mitigate as much as it as we possibly can. Now that's someone who I trust, because they at least acknowledge the thing that I'm talking about mathematically that is certainly happening, is disinterested to even acknowledge that it's a thing. Yeah, it again, there's no such thing as a paid protester. So let's unpack that a little bit. So you can tell, okay, so if I have no proof that there is one, mathematically, are protesters, is there a bunch of money in politics?
Yeah.
And are protests integral in politics?
Yeah.
And is there a separation or something to stop political money from flowing into protest?
Is there something to stop it?
Is there an obstacle? If I was a politician and I wanted, okay, so let's just say I'm a politician and I'm holding a protest down here, right?
Yeah.
And I'm really afraid that only 5 people are going to show up. Is there anything prohibiting me from taking money and making more people be at my protest than would authentically and organically happen?
No.
So it's mathematically certain that even in small quantities, it's happening, but more likely in big quantities that's happening. And really the evidence is, when anybody who's been around organic protests, organic, support for something, it looks a certain way, right? It has hallmarks. And when something outside of it, so for instance, if something happened on Friday and on Saturday people showed up with printed posters, right? Now,
yeah,
I've printed posters before. The turnaround time between when something happened and when signs were being printed, there's not enough time to be able to react, to be fully ready to have a protest. You got ready too fast.
Especially to communicate plans with that large. Anybody who's had a kid in sports knows you don't communicate with a group of people that fast.
Yes.
And organize.
So there has to, now the military, who has extreme coordination, right? And they have those organized groups basically plan for contingencies that haven't yet occurred. You could see them being super ready for something happening because there's coordination and there's massive resources and there's a lot of hypothetical planning. But from a protest, if something happens, like, how did you know, right, that was going to happen so that you'd be prepared for it? So when somebody wins the Super Bowl and someone comes out with a hat that says whatever Super Bowl champs, right?
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, they just won 2 seconds ago. How did you know that they were freaking going to win, that you actually had a hat that said Super Bowl champs? It means that there are some hats that said the other team won the Super Bowl champs that are going to be sent to Uganda and given to starving kids somewhere, right?
Oh, my husband was just saying the other night, I can't remember what president it was, but it was like decades ago. There was an election and news sources want to be the first to break who won. And they printed a whole bunch of newspapers with the wrong candidate. They thought for sure this guy's going to win. He's going to take it. Let's go to print. So-and-so is the new president. And he didn't win. At the last minute, the other guy won. And all these papers went out with the wrong president winning, that they all had to retract and go to print really quickly because people will be ready for whatever outcome that they got to push out.
Yeah.
I can't think of what president that was. Maybe somebody knows, but
well, if you want to take a couple minutes and look at some of the Signal chat, these were amazing. And if you use Signal, by the way,
no.
Okay. So there's these groups and they're using Signal because it is semi-secure. Like, it's not a hackable deal, but super easy to be put into a correspondence, especially when you got large groups of people that are coordinating protests. They're eager to let new people into their group. So you can very easily get added to one of these protest groups. There was a dude, I think his name's like 0 Hour or something, a big right-wing guy. But what he did was he took all of I think he had like 35 Minneapolis Minneapolis signal chat groups for different protests that were happening in the city. And so a bunch of conservatives infiltrated those groups and took what they're talking about, what they're planning, how they're databasing and whatnot. And it illustrated just how much choreography is going into it. Choreography equals money, right? You got to be able to pay people and infrastructure and database and software and whatever to pull this off. And that money's got to come from somewhere. So I think in the leading up to the midterms, that we're going to have an insight in not only who's funding it, so Soros groups or whatever big boogeyman you want on the funding side, but you're going to have important people that are complicit into feeding the groups information, what they need to pull it off. And then the other side is coordinating the people and the labor that show up at these things. I would be much amused if you just let a protest happen organically without any kind of coordination. How many people really would show up to those things who weren't paid or, encouraged to go to the protests?
Especially when it's like 5 degrees outside. I find this interesting too. Maybe there are some hardcore people. I don't know. And I've heard people in Minnesota were even saying like, oh, with the temperatures and everything, it's kind of quelling some things. But it's also very much amped up. And do you think a typical everyday protester is going to be out there in blustery winds?
I think in Minneapolis and Seattle and Chicago, those cities have more liberals who are already super hyped. So it wouldn't take a lot to get some people there. But to keep them in it, where every day they're fighting against ICE, nothing's really changing. Unless I'm paying somebody to go out in the frigid weather for 60 consecutive days, like it's very doubtful everybody's going to show up.
Yeah. Janet says, Pretty was unarmed. Why shot 9 times at close range? And again, and we stated this earlier in the show, we can both feel that he should not have died and the ICE agent should not have shot him. And at the same time think he should not have been there. I can think both things. And that's not leaning to a certain political side. And that's not being like, oh, but we have to fight back against it. He probably shouldn't have gone. And they shouldn't have shot him.
Now, do you think he's going to be investigated? It's still going to be on the federal level. Do you think the guy gets a fair shake where you're going to have one side saying that the cop was in the wrong? He did not wield a weapon. He didn't pose a danger to the authorities. This wasn't should not have been a death punishment for what I saw on that video. And his side is you got 3 cops being antagonized by people with a person who did have a gun. I thought he pulled a gun out. It had already been taken away from him. I was in the wrong, but it was a justified shooting because of the situation and circumstances. Both are going to have to plead out to that. And somebody's going to have to decide whether or not they overstepped. I mean, you'd have to prove that ICE officer wanted to kill this person in order for it to be murder.
Yeah.
They just didn't like him. You're going to have to pitch that case. I think it was 3 overzealous, maybe 1 overzealous ICE officer that misinterpreted what was happening and took lethal ends. He's still in the wrong because he took a life and it wasn't warranted.
Yeah.
But even if there was a gun on the ground, right, that the guy was going for it and not pointed and brandished, it's the same then storyline with the good thing. Could they have somehow figured out how not to kill this person? Because I don't want federal authorities to be so trigger happy that the first green light that they get on taking someone's life, that they absolutely take it. And that's where the patience wanes as time goes on. Because if you're an ICE agent, how sick of these protesters are you by now?
Probably very.
Like it's on the down edge of what you're willing to tolerate. And same thing with protesters. You're sick of ICE agents by this point. They're not obviously getting the message. They need to stop doing what they're doing. And so both sides equally as sick of each other, and their patience and disciplines are probably almost zero at this point.
And I think anybody would kind of chime in and say, I don't care how annoyed the ICE agent is, you don't kill somebody. You're going to be annoyed. You know what you signed up for. You know people are pushing back. I don't care if they're getting in your face and saying mean things. You don't kill somebody because you're annoyed. But is that harder to defend if you know these people now are not just annoying, but they're all armed.
Well, no, we're
They're
talking
all
about
armed.
permission versus punishment. You're one side of the argument is that we are using the law of averages to make it certain that these things are going to happen, and the person that does it is going to be punished. It's due process for it. But if you're setting the circumstances where more of these are going to happen, we're not saying this guy's going to go in front of a board and continue being an ICE officer and not serve some prison time. If that happens, someone still died, right?
Yeah.
And all the only elements that are in your control right now, you're not going to stop ICE from doing what their job is. The only thing that you can control is the messaging of the protesters, where they're not going to do dumb things that make it even more likely that the law averages say that more people are going to die.
Yeah.
One side says if ICE would just stop, which they're not going to do, then less people will die. One side says that as long as protesters would back off and lower the temperature, which is not going to happen, then we'd solve that problem. Neither of which is going to happen.
Yeah, I agree. Carter says ICE is in Texas and Florida, but they are cooperating
That
with
is correct.
ICE. Matthew says Carter Stone, there are more in Minnesota.
Yes, because they need less people in Texas because local law enforcement are your ICE agents. If they're judges and their juries and their on the beat law enforcement are giving the illegals to ICE. The receiving, like you can stock one guy in a room and have one patrolman bring an ICE agent to them, and then one guy could service hundreds of incoming illegal immigrants. When you have to go out and get them, it takes hundreds of people and support people to be able to then go out and fetch those same people. Much bigger operation.
Julie says Walls has true illegals in local jails and they won't pick them up. I don't get it. Julie says his mommy had to arm him and drive him to the protest. Oh, the Kyle dude, I think. Matthew, by the way, that was not a family member's car dealer. He went there because he wanted to use his gun. And again, I will have always said Kyle shouldn't have been there. He shouldn't have.
And we argued this for 4 months when it was going down.
Yeah.
So I think whoever was convinced at any given point, right, nobody's going to change anybody's mind of how it went down.
Yeah. Brian says, we as citizens are all pawns in the political games of red versus blue. I agree.
Beautiful.
Julie says, don't worry, Kellen. We are pretty pissed. Good. When I said, be mad at your leaders, be mad at your representative.
Give them less function because they
Yeah.
are not good people. They are not playing the same game that you and I are.
What about all those big gun carries on January 6th? They were there for peace, right? Didn't want to interfere with law enforcement at all, right? What a hypocritical joke. Not only did Alex never pull out his holstered weapon, it was taken from him from ICE before they shot an unarmed pepper sprayed man on his stomach in the back 9 times.
So one at a time. What about those big gun carriers on January 6th? Also, very stupid.
Yes.
But if you felt and sort of put it as a 1-for-1 parity between the two, if you felt that your government was being overtaken and a fraud was about to be committed, and then you went into I'm the noble anti-tyranny people and you were ready to overthrow the government, that'd be pretty easy to prove whether or not those militias were there to overthrow the government and they felt this was the green light to take government back from the tyrannical governments that are. And what happens to tyranny, or what are those people called? Traitors, right?
Oh.
They're traitors to your government. You were wrong. You thought it was tyranny. You were wrong. And then how are traitors handled within government? Due process. They go to prison for a really long time. So bad decision making on bringing your guns. And if it was a organized deal where you were about to take shit over, I watched the videos of people going into the Capitol, and you picture the movie that would depict somebody who was taking over the government. Different behaviors than what I saw on those video footage.
Like they were doing selfies and being
a bunch
dumb
of cosplayers who thought whatever,
Yeah.
and they got what was coming to them, where a lot of them got arrested and put in prison for a
But
while.
there are people out there that saw videos on the internet of them just being destructive and being dangerous and being threatening and all this other stuff, who didn't see just some idiots dressed up taking selfies being annoying.
Yeah, and that's why if you were arrested and you got put in prison because you broke the rules, you got your due process and you got in front of a jury, you got in front of a judge, and you got some prison time. You went to prison.
Yeah. Bringing a gun to a Capitol building is dumb.
Very dumb.
Bringing a gun anywhere near an ICE agent in Minneapolis in 2026, very dumb.
Yes.
Quit putting yourself in harm's way and then asking why when you get hurt.
Yeah. And I would be saying the same thing. If someone in January 6th was in the same predicament, they put themselves in a compromising position by being there.
Yep.
They brought a weapon, which made it a little bit worse, and they struggled with the police, and the police had any green light to disarm, right? Take the weapon from them. And if they still killed that person after being disarmed, I would blame the person for doing a ton of dumb shit. And I'd also blame the police officer or the federal officer for taking an effing life.
Yep. And if the big person in charge says, I think you all need to arm yourselves and go storm this, probably going to be mad at them too.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Chris says, how much training are ICE agents getting before being sent out to work? What are the rules of engagement? From the video, it appeared that the protester never pulled his weapon, and his weapon was removed before he was shot. From my experience with law enforcement, this type of situation should end in death, arrest, sure, but death, no.
Okay, so my thoughts on this is ICE should not be trained for public engagements. They are not a publicly facing agency. What should happen is you call up the governor, they say, hey, we're coming in and we're going to go to do some detainments. And the local police are there for community facing. Right?
ICE aren't mob trained.
They are not.
Agents.
They're not supposed to be they are supposed to be ninjas behind the scene. And so long that your followers are telling everybody where they're at, you're making a public spectacle of the CIA or the NSA or the DEA. Nobody should be following any of those agencies around. And if it were me, I would arrest anybody who was tailing me, protesting me, because I'm not supposed to be in the public's eye.
And again, I agree. He shouldn't be dead. I agree. Shooting someone better be the absolute last option to protect your
100%.
own life. I can also say this defense of ICE agents aren't trained for very long only makes me again say, then why the hell would you put yourself in front of one? If you think they're trigger happy, inexperienced, untrained weapon wielders, and I'll admit, again, like you said, not trained in mob control, not trained to quell mass angry people in their way. They're trying to go arrest someone. Then don't get in their freaking way.
Right.
That's just stupid.
Yep.
Don't make excuses for the tyrannical government.
Just analytics.
Carter says there were 0 guns on 1/6.
I doubt that.
Jilly says
I truly doubt that on January 6th there weren't people. I know on federal land you are not allowed to have a weapon, but I don't doubt that you had some weaponry in that crowd.
Julie, what excuse are we making? Or maybe she was talking to Carter. Either way, don't make excuses for. Tell us what excuse we just made for them. I'd like to know what you think we're saying, and then maybe we can clear that up. Carter Stone, literally not true. Look it up. There were armed protesters who got disarmed.
Yeah, just the law of averages. You get a bunch of pissed off people and they show up, and you're going to have the people who are there organically, and you're going to have people there that are cause trouble, and you're going to have people there that want to do death and destruction. We had all of those at January 6th. We have all of that at these ICE protests. And I'm not holding the whole group. There might have been some lady who was sitting on the sidewalk following every rule with her sign. She'll never get headlines because what she did was express her First Amendment, and that was the entirety of it.
Yep.
You see the people who went beyond that, started breaking laws, and then the penalty for breaking laws, it's not because you were protesting, not because you were expressing. You laid down in front of a car, which if I went out on the street right now, laid in front of a car, they're not going to be like, oh, Joe's expressing himself.
Yeah.
No, I'm obstructing traffic flow. I'm causing a nuisance and a danger to the general public, and I should be arrested because I'm stupid.
Jerry says, I will use the Second Amendment to protect Youngstown Talks, Joe and Kellen.
Good. We got some protectors.
Thanks, Jerry. Jennifer says, no, we want the rights to be equal. That's the difference. You call me stupid. You would expect me to call you stupid. You would not expect me to hit you in the head with a brick in response.
So like proportional. So what's happening that's asymmetric here? Are we talking about, you're standing your ground and a protester is yelling at you and then you pepper spray?
Yeah. Like you don't shoot them because they're getting in your face. I would agree with that. Don't shoot someone if your life's not in danger.
Okay,
but then you have to prove that.
But when I see people getting the wrath of the police, it's not because they were 6 feet away screaming at someone.
Right.
Okay. It's I got right in your face and I'm spitting on you. It's I'm pushing you and grabbing at you. It's I'm obstructing you or not listening to orders. So the one I'll agree with is if the listening to orders things, right? Now, do you have to listen to a law enforcement officer, even if you don't agree that it's legit? I watched Caitlin Bennett this weekend, and this is a good one. You follow Caitlin, by the way?
No.
Liberty Hangout, big conservative. I love it because basically she goes out to public farmers markets and in these liberal cities, and she interviews people.
She have kind of brownish hair.
Long, curly, brown hair.
I think I know who you're talking about. I think I know who you're talking about.
She goes to protesters and uses that same strategy where she's a little bit guerrilla-y.
I have seen her, yeah.
Well, anyway, so she's interviewing, and cops come up to her regularly and say, we're going to put you in a First Amendment zone. So they cordon off a little bit of the thing, and they keep people separated where you have the protesters and counter protesters completely separated. And she says, well, I'm not protesting. I'm media, and I'm basically interviewing people for my channel, right? She's been ticketed and arrested. You know what she does every time when she's ticketed and arrested? She takes the ticket, she listens to authorities and cops, and she does what she's told. Then she fights it in court. She wins big lawsuits, and she starts the process all over again.
Yeah.
Now, are there things that a cop could do to you that you disagree with? Yes, but due process says that you have to follow it, go do your day in court and do your countersuit and do everything that's protected to it. The reason I'll listen to this is because the system has all of the chips. And if they want to be oppressive and tyrannical, they could use their control of the system, and I could give you a ticket every day. And then so you spend all of your time in court. And then you can't then go and interview people. So if it happens, sometimes the tolerances are she's following due process. But if they know that they can use the system and strangle you out so you can't do your thing, now we've gone to oppressive standpoint. So the people who are protesting and overwhelming ICE forces the way that they're doing it, they've gone too far. It went from just protesting to using your leverage to obstruct something that's actually happening, or the law enforcement from happening.
Yeah. Matthew, you're the bad guys because you don't care if people's rights get trampled on because you personally think they are stupid. False.
Very false.
You're not listening to anything we say. You just want to keep right fighting. You can be a right fighter where you want someone to just agree and regurgitate back to you everything you say, or you can listen to other people and consider their points.
And I'll
be a right fighter.
I'll reiterate here. It's what we do when we think there's an injustice. What is our responsibility when there's an injustice in front of us? Do we directly fight it, or do we use due process? I believe, I hate authority, but if there is an authority, I'm going to use due process, right? My job is not to create anarchy and say the authority that I agree with, like the tax collectors that fund all of my social programs. Those are good authority. Everybody needs to listen to those authorities. But the ICE agents that I disagree with, we don't have to listen to those ones, and we need to push up against those. So if you're an anarchist and you hate all authorities, the ones that benefit you hate them, and the ones that you hate them.
Yeah. Our military, who are quite literally trained to be the fighters and the killers. Let's go fight. Let's put ourselves in danger. Let's push back against what's wrong, and let's be ready to die to do it. All follow a freaking process. Yes. We have a game plan. We have an authoritative hierarchy we got to listen to. We got to come up with some sort of, I don't know, game plan to follow or something that makes sense to make sure we all just don't gung-ho do whatever the hell we want and lose the entire mission. So why do you think you're just going to go gung-ho? Like, be smart about it. You can be smart about things. And if somebody does something the wrong way, we can call it out. Right. And say it was stupid.
Well, and we both agree that there are too much power given to authorities, and the right response to that is to remove power from the authorities, not disagree with the authority that we've given them and what they've taken, and decide not to follow it. That basically puts you on the rebellious side, where you're not a vigilante. You're not going to change an injustice by being a criminal yourself. It means the proper channels, the due process to get things changed that you disagree with, and libertarian in me says there should be more. If you hate how things are going right now, there should be millions of libertarians being forged right now. Take power away from institutions so that if you feel that they're oppressive and tyrannical, that they don't have the controls. But if you want to give them more control so that they go after your enemy, it's just a matter of time before those controls are aimed at you. And you're going to really hate the day that you gave that permission to the authorities.
Yep.
You saying no shit is the problem. We shouldn't have to worry about being gunned down by government or not by breaking the law. Yeah.
No shit. I have said that. Does it feel like no matter what you say, the people who are too far to one side are just going to like take the little bits and pieces out of what you said and fight that, even though you just said something else and they choose to ignore it? That's what this feels like.
Again,
anywho,
it's the 5-year-olds in the back seat. If you are I'll leave you alone and you leave me alone, there's no oppressive tyranny that's coming after you. They will leave you alone. If it's I want to prove to you that I can get my fingers close to your eye and poke you in the eye and you can't do something
I'm not
about
touching
it.
you.
Right.
I'm not touching
that is
you.
I want to be able to poke you in the eye without you being able to then punch me in the face. I want to do the thing without consequence is that Democrat liberal philosophy. And that's, I want to go do a protest and break all the laws, but I want you to follow all of the rules and laws. Mm-hmm. That's the difference. If I'm going to break the rules and laws and get into that gray area and they get super shocked pro-clutching when you go to the gray area, that's a dangerous precedence between the relationship.
Yeah. Let's see. Judy says, I am anti-Trump, but also want the administration to succeed because I live in the U.S. But here's the deal. The ICE agents aren't doing what Trump promised the American people. ICE was supposed to detain high-profile illegal criminals. They are targeting brown people and those with accents. We've all seen these videos all over the internet. Doesn't the government have documentation where these hardened criminals live and work? Why aren't they using technology to find and arrest them?
Yes. But let me just take this one at a time because I want you, Judy, I want you to be patient because that's all reasonable. I only disagree about halfway through that paragraph.
Yeah.
Number one, I do believe they went right into the non-violent criminals super fast when that was the promise. So I'll agree with you there. Then you got into the targeting brown people with accents. I disagree with that. I think that is a risk that there is not a law enforcement agency that wants to tolerate. I think that's just charges from the critics, and I don't think that carries a lot of weight. Well,
and here's where I was saying earlier about the danger of posting things on the internet and algorithm. She's like, how come they're not posting all over the internet? They are. You don't see it if that's not your algorithm setup. I don't know about you. I have seen them post pictures and rap sheets of hardened criminals that they detained and arrested and got because of all of this. I've seen all kinds of stories about what they've done.
You know what was really happened in regular city police is body cams. And releasing body cams from start to finish.
Yeah.
And ICE does not have body cams.
Yeah, that's crazy to me.
If anything happens and they release the full unedited version, all we're getting is, in the good one, the good video footage, we had 12 different camera angles. On this recent one, there was grainy, terrible video footage. If we just had firsthand accounts, we wouldn't have to buy the officers. Like, I want to know if there's a trigger happy ICE agent, get him off of that and get him in prison as quick as possible. Do you watch Mayor of Kingstown, by the way?
No.
All right. So there's a group of a SWAT team, right? And the guy that is in charge of the SWAT team, he loves shooting people. Loves it. Any chance he can get to shoot somebody, he absolutely takes it.
That's psychotic.
And he waits for a situation that greenlights him to do it legally, and he takes it. And everybody on the force wants to get rid of this guy. The DA wants to lock him up. Everybody's against him, but he qualifies for having a good shoot when he does this, so he never really gets in trouble. He has had some ones that the rest of the police department covered up, but that is the fear. That sort of illustrates we don't want ICE agents that want to kill and are just on this squad. And I think it's early to knowing the character and seeing the footage of this guy in the show. You can absolutely, because you had firsthand account, if this was a trigger happy killer, murderer, versus somebody who got put in situations 5 minutes before and 5 minutes after, and reasonable people can look at it and say, if I were in that situation, I would have probably done the same thing. That's the difference maker. I think all of them should have body cams.
I agree. I think they should too. Carter says the Dems didn't shed a tear for Ashley Babbitt. And there's a lot of people that there were no tears for. Before this even started, the White House was putting out story after story of people who were brutally murdered by illegal immigrants.
Okay, but take it one for one. Ashley Babbitt was aggressive and screaming. And
I don't know who that is.
She was one of the person that was shot and killed on January 6th.
Oh.
And she was by a security officer within the Capitol building. And the argument was that she didn't possess a weapon. She didn't pose a legitimate threat. She was killed needlessly in this. And I'll put it through the exact same filter. Life was lost. There was no imminent danger to the officer where she didn't have a weapon. She was stupid because she put herself in aggressive posture in front of someone who had a gun, right? And she pushed the limits of that. Same thing, stupid and stupid.
Yeah. Don't like that she was killed. Don't like she was there.
Yep.
Let's see. A sovereign citizen is an individual who belongs to a loose anti-government and often extremist movement, adhering to the belief that they are not subject to the jurisdiction or laws.
And they are annoying as can be. So annoying because they're so entitled and so overconfident in their sovereign citizenship. So if you claim to be a sovereign citizen, okay, so who do you think qualifies to be a sovereign citizen?
I don't know. A sovereign citizen.
So you just decide that this government thing isn't working out for you, the state that you live in, whatever. If you said, here's what I'm willing to do. I'm going to give up my citizenship. I'm going to be a countryless person. I am here, right? But I cannot get any benefit from actually living here. The road that you built, I'm not a citizen of it. I'm not entitled to it. That hospital I've gone to, I don't want any of it. I am going to go out on my farm, right? I bought it. It's my own country. I live off my pigs. I don't use your hospitals or your fire or your military or anything. I'm just over there. The Amish would be sovereign citizens. They don't need any connection to the outside whatsoever. They don't use any of the services. That one I would bless and say, you're not causing me any problems. I'm not causing you any problems. I'm going to respect that you have this little plot of land, that I'm not going to come to you, and don't you dare come over your fence to me. That to me is a sovereign citizen. But you got these people that are driving around, participating in 90% of what our citizenship entitles you, and all of a sudden when they come across a rule that they don't like, look, I'm a sovereign citizen. So annoying.
Oh yeah. So Julie says, and you have proof that illegals vote?
Listen, again, this is that red flag thing.
Yeah.
That if people are here and they benefit from government systems and politicians want them here and they get put on jury rolls, all of the evidence that there are people that are casting ballots, are entitled to cast ballots, are registered voters that should not be registered. I'm going to say almost certainly there are people that shouldn't vote that are voting.
Well, and one of the pushbacks I keep hearing from the left of why they want people out, I think, is when you get your representative based off of the population of your state, it's just that. How many people are there? Not how many legal citizens are there. How many people are there?
Do you think
Which is
illegals
why
need
you would want
representation?
to ship them in.
Your interpretation is it every person, not every citizen, should get representation in
I
government?
think citizens. Well,
Doesn't say it.
it doesn't say it. It is very much legal to go off of the number of people in that state, even if they are not a citizen. If they crossed illegally, if they were shipped there, if they're a criminal, if they're not, what have you, it's based off of the amount of people. That's why a state would be like, come on, come on, come in, come in, come in, come in. Okay, we've got so many. I am now in. Is that right?
Well, one of the benefits of being a citizen is you get representation for your interests.
Yeah.
There's no interest in becoming a citizen. If it would be pretty hard if you came to this country and nobody represents you and every rule's against you and every law's against you. It should be a light bulb moment that says, hey, I'm going to go get some citizenship so those people will represent me, not as the person that's outside.
Yep. Carter says, why do the libs always defend criminals but never the victims of any crime?
That Garcia guy, that guy they made into like a loving father, good.
Yeah.
And it's really just the theatrics, the game that you play. I watch when something new happens. All the people that I expect to say glowing things and critical things, they always play their role perfectly. So you and I were like
3 minutes.
You and I are like, let's wait to see more evidence before I come to some kind of conclusion, right? Because I don't like being wrong in the first place. So for me to jump on a bandwagon and come to make some assumptions, I don't want to be on that play.
Yeah.
But everybody else doesn't freaking care. So anyway, that's it.
Oh, yeah. There was a blonde woman killed in the park by an illegal immigrant, and we heard nothing. There was a university professor that was killed by an illegal immigrant. We heard nothing. There are many, many cases.
I am not spectacularly uninformed. In fact, my challenge is anybody who thinks that is invited to sit across from me anytime, any place, and I will debate any topic. And I know what I know and what I don't know, and I use a strict adherence to logic in all of my conclusions. So if I have something wrong, truly put it in front of me. I will absolutely reinvestigate anything that I think I know at this point. If I have it
by all means,
wrong.
you are
Bring
more
it every
than
single time
invited to submit your information or come talk about it. Come talk about it. Lake and Riley, Jocelyn Nungary, 6 people killed in Florida by a legal truck driver. Yeah, lots of victims.
We could have done a 3-hour show today, by the way.
I know. People are horrible for killing them. Deserve to be sent to jail. Man, there's so many comments. I'm like, we're running out of time.
Totally
if we didn't get to your comment, guys, we're sorry. We have to wrap it up because we started early. That's why we can't go till 11. But you all, they're all kind of fighting with each other in the comments. You guys can respond to each other's stuff.
And Jen, you're right. I'm not suggesting that you don't use your voice to push up against something that you disagree with. I say follow due process, figure out how things work, and use that voice to enact change. Not push. Like, you can't fight against a tyranny by using tyrannical strategies.
And this is my point of where you gotta go all or nothing every time. Like, don't stay home and be quiet. Use your voice. Do it in a safe way.
All right.
Thank you for listening to this show on Youngstown Studio. This is a